We are bringing in former Middle East editor for the Associated Press, Dan Perry, on this, who is live for us in Tel Aviv right now. Dan, we appreciate you joining us. I know where you are. It's already officially October 7th. Are you expecting demonstrations? What is the emotion on the ground tonight?
Well, there's a lot of anticipation of a possible Israeli reprisal strike on Iran because of last week's missile barrage. About almost 200 ballistic missiles were fired at Israel. There is also some expectation that perhaps some terrorist groups might try to use the anniversary to stage attacks marking it. But of course, Israel's on high alert, and things generally don't work out that way, so no one really knows. I would expect demonstrations in Israel against the government as such, not large ones anyway. But what there are going to be are some commemorations of the terrible events and some memorial services. But largely, it is just sort of a tragic date that marks a year of great sadness and tragedy, not just for Israel, but also all over the region for the Palestinians in particular.
I appreciate that information and that context. And, you know, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, to your point, saying that Iran will pay a price for the missile attack. What is the sense you have? Do you have any sense of when or what that may look like?
Oh, they're trying to maintain an element of surprise while rattling the saber. They have a number of options. It can be a symbolic strike. I think that's the minimum that they try to do. It can be something a bit more tactical, maybe to try to create some deterrence on the part of the Iranians. And there's some voices that really are calling for exploiting what may be a moment of Israeli momentum and Iranian weakness to really deliver a blow to perhaps the Iranian nuclear program. I think that would be very risky, and my assessment is that's not their inclination. They're going to try to calibrate between punishing Iran for its brazenness and hurling so many missiles at Israel without actually starting a war. I don't think they want to do that. And I think they're very well aware that the Americans want some calm restored during their election season. That may seem bizarre, but that is a factor to be taken into account.
Yeah, that is interesting. At this point, is there any hope of a ceasefire deal in the near future?
If you mean it with Gaza, I'm not particularly optimistic because I think the Israelis have concluded they just cannot leave Hamas in power, given what they did. And Hamas seems disinclined to basically surrender, even in the context of a deal where maybe they get exile for the remaining leadership. It kind of looks like a dead end. There are voices in Israel calling for Netanyahu to just suffice with the damage done in Gaza. Basically declare victory, do a deal getting back the hostages and leaving Hamas in power, because they're so degraded and because it is so obviously in their DNA to provoke Israel again that the coup de grace in such a scenario might be delayed for a second stage where Hamas stupidly attacks again, and this time Israel can finish the job without one hand tied, which it currently does have because of the hostages.
Tell us, what is the sense on the ground in Israel as Netanyahu is looking north? Do Israelis broadly support Netanyahu's barrage of Lebanon? Are Israeli citizens afraid right now?
They overwhelmingly support it. Israel's a country generally divided because the main issue is the Palestinians, and that's a divisive issue with great complexities and some moral, ambiguity. Whereas in the case of Lebanon, I mean, Lebanon's been hijacked by an Iranian militia mafia that's been using it as a platform to provoke a nuclear power and has caused Israel to have 60,000 displaced people over a year of being attacked unprovoked with rockets, shells, and drones. Now, there's pretty close to a consensus in Israel that A, this is intolerable, and B, if Israel might degrade Hezbollah enough to enable Lebanon to take control of its own territory, it's a favor particularly to the Lebanese. And maybe that country, which is currently a failed state, might, through the good services of Israel, and end up, in some sort of recuperation.